Masai Mara, this animal's body sculpted for a single purpose: speed. No creature on the surface of this planet runs faster. For the prey, only two choices exist: run or die. A successful hunt. But the scent of a fresh meal carries farther than expected. Spotted hyenas have no ceiling on aggression. Then come the ultimate predators, lions. This is the order of the savannah. The cheetahs come up short because the rules of this savage kingdom are not written in speed alone. Chapter 2: Lion Attack, Cheetahs Battles for Survival in the Savage Savannah. The dry season arrives early across the Masai Mara. Soil along the western edge begins to crack. This cheetah alliance has held nearly 800 square kilometers for 2 seasons. For a female cheetah searching for a mate, this is the strongest signal she can receive from a distance. Female cheetahs do not choose mates at random. The scent signature of 5 males is information about territory, strength, and numbers. But it reveals nothing about reflexes, nothing about movement quality. Any male who fails to respond in time will not be selected. The one who reacts fastest, who moves with the greatest confidence, that is the male shaped by natural selection. Mating is brief. The coalition moves south. Akil remains alone on a small rise. Her name means intelligence in Swahili. And from that moment, 90 to 95 days begin to count down. Cheetah gestation is shorter than that of other big cats. Lions require around 110 days. Leopards require nearly 100. Cheetahs need only 90 to 95. By the 4th and 5th week, Akil's center of gravity begins to shift. The cheetah's spine, a structure built to generate explosive speed by coiling like a spring, can no longer move at full range as the belly expands. Peak speed drops. And in the hunt, the margin between fast enough and not fast enough is razor thin. Over the next 2 weeks, Akil attempts 2 hunts. She fails both. A pregnant cheetah grows hungrier while hunting becomes harder, a paradox every cheetah mother must endure. Meanwhile, south of the plains near the Mara River, another mother faces her own impossible decision. Her name is Subare, patience in Swahili. Her cubs weigh barely 1.2 to 1.5 kilograms each. Tiny, helpless, and completely dependent on her milk for protein, fat, and hydration. Subira's energy requirements increase by nearly 30% during nursing. But she has not eaten in 3 days. If she leaves to hunt, every minute she is gone creates an opening for hyenas, strange males, anything dangerous enough to kill the cubs. If she stays, her body weakens and her milk supply diminishes. Subare chooses to stay. That same morning, Akil carries the consequences of one choice. Subare carries the consequences of another. And both are waiting for something entirely different. Chapter 3: The Revelation. Subare has endured hunger longer than most lionesses could survive comfortably. A solo lioness succeeds in only around 17 to 19% of hunts, far lower than a pride hunting together. But today cannot fail. She spots a young wildebeest at the edge of the herd. The attack succeeds. She eats for 9 minutes. That is all the time she has. For the first time in days, the cubs feed properly. For the first time in weeks, Subare can finally close her eyes without calculation. All big cats are born looking different from their adult forms. Lion cubs have faint spots. Leopard cubs develop rosettes gradually over time. This is not an accident. It is camouflage. Predators are trained by evolution to recognize familiar patterns. But one species takes this adaptation further than all others. Akil has completed something extraordinary. The silver mantle running down the backs of her 5 cubs is not random coloration. Researchers from the Cheetah Conservation Fund propose that this dorsal manner mimics the appearance of a honey badger, a species feared even by larger predators for its aggression and unpredictability. But the protection will not last. As the cubs grow, adult spots begin forming beneath the silver coat. The manner starts to shed. And that transition period becomes the most dangerous stage of their lives. Subare has a pride behind her. Akil has no one. That difference will decide everything that follows. 3 weeks after giving birth, Akil detects an unfamiliar scent drifting from the southwest. Another female cheetah is approaching the buffer zone. Female cheetahs do not maintain lifelong social bonds after leaving their mothers. There is no tolerance for territorial overlap during critical periods. Two mothers in the same hunting ground means two sets of cubs competing for the same prey. The approaching female is pregnant. Perhaps she did not know a keel was here. Or perhaps desperation forced the risk. The confrontation lasts less than 2 minutes. A keel has the advantage of home territory. But elsewhere in the tall grass, something far more dangerous is already moving. Kaylee, one of the dominant male lions controlling the southern sector, hears the disturbance while patrolling. A lion never ignores movement worth investigating. Kaylee weighs nearly 190 kilograms. His black mane marks him as a male in peak condition. The most common question about lions killing cheetahs is simple. Why? Not for food. Lions rarely eat cheetahs. But any species capable of threatening lion cubs becomes an evolutionary problem. Over generations, removing cheetahs from lion territory increases the survival chances of lion offspring. There is no room for mercy in that equation. A keel catches Kaylee's scent from nearly 300 meters away. Every instinct tells her to run toward her cubs and place herself between them and danger. But instinct alone cannot save them. She does something extraordinary. A keel maintains distance, close enough to keep Kaylee interested, far enough to avoid being caught. She draws him away from the den. Eastward. Away from the reeds where the cubs are hidden. But while a keel distracts the lion, one cub moves. Curiosity. Hunger. Restlessness. Kaylee finds the den. A keel returns hours later. She stands completely still. Then she moves the surviving cubs to a new den before the sun shifts again. The Masai Mara never pauses. And neither can she. Chapter 4, Lion vs. Cheetah, The Price of Survival. Predators learn through experience. They learn what is prey, what is dangerous, and what costs too much energy to challenge. An unfamiliar pattern creates hesitation. That hesitation is what cheetah cubs rely on during the transition period between 8 and 10 weeks of age. But hesitation is never certainty. A hungry predator may still attack. An experienced predator may ignore the warning entirely. So a keel adapts constantly. Hunting runs become shorter. No more than 2 or 3 kilometers from the cubs. Den sites change every few days. Every adjustment maps precisely to the vulnerability of her cubs. Elsewhere along the Mara River, a leopard named Siri solves survival differently. The rosette patterns on a leopard's coat are not decoration. They mimic broken forest light. Structural camouflage. A lioness notices movement near a distant tree. She knows a leopard is hiding there. But uncertainty changes her calculation. Then suddenly, the lioness abandons the pursuit and chases gazelles instead. The gazelles never realize they just altered the fate of another predator. That is how the food chain truly works. Not simple predator versus prey, but overlapping probabilities where any decision can reshape survival. Then the rains return to the Masai Mara. Grass grows taller. Herbivores shift with the new food supply. For cheetahs, tall grass becomes a nightmare. They hunt by sight and speed across open terrain. Wet ground carries vibrations farther. Prey reacts sooner. A cheetah's flexible spine is perfect for horizontal acceleration, but terrible for climbing. Leopards solve the problem differently. Siri drags a 50-kilogram impala into a tree, beyond the reach of lions and hyenas. A cached kill can feed her cubs for days. Wild dogs solve survival another way entirely. Their hunting success rate can exceed 80%, the highest among major African predators. But many of their kills are stolen. 3 predators. 3 different survival strategies. None perfect. All just effective enough to keep the species alive. The buffer zones between lion territories become unexpected sanctuaries. Less prey. But also fewer apex predators. For cheetahs, lower food density is often worth the reduced risk. And eventually, a keel enters the most important phase of motherhood, teaching. No longer simply protecting. Now demonstrating. Allowing failure. Allowing mistakes. Because survival in the Masai Mara cannot be inherited. It must be learned. Leopard cubs spend up to 1.5 years with their mother in prey-rich territory, where food is more concentrated and opportunities are more predictable. But cheetah cubs grow up in a completely different world. Prey does not gather in dense numbers across their territory. Every hunt is uncertain. Every mistake carries a cost. That demands a different kind of teaching. A mother cheetah provides carefully structured exposure, adjusting the difficulty of each lesson to match the cub's current abilities. Every attempt becomes a data point. Every chase builds the neural pathways needed to predict movement, judge timing, and eventually execute a successful hunt without hesitation. The first lesson is simple. Water. Akil drinks first. The 4 cubs follow her lead. Because their mother's behavior is their most important guide, they observe everything she does. Only later does real hunt training begin. The program unfolds in 3 distinct stages. Tier 1. Observation. The cubs watch an entire hunt from a safe distance, the stalk, the acceleration, the final capture. They learn the mechanics without interfering. Tier 2. Practice. Smaller prey. Favorable terrain. The cubs attempt the hunt themselves while Akil stays close enough to intervene if necessary. Not to punish mistakes, but to demonstrate the correct response immediately while the memory is still fresh. Tier 3. Restraint. Observation only. Dangerous prey such as warthogs are never approached directly by inexperienced cubs. A warthog stands its ground and fights back violently. And that becomes the most important lesson of all. Knowing when not to try. Cheetahs achieve true independence only after 18 to 24 months of repeated failures, corrections, and gradual improvement. The gap between the first hunting lesson and full independence spans nearly a year of relentless trial and error. Meanwhile, far away from Akil's teaching grounds, another mother is losing her war against exhaustion. 9 weeks alone in the wilderness has pushed Sub-IRA beyond her limits. Every hunt is a gamble with terrible odds. Every failed strike means another day without food. Sub-IRA is visibly weaker now. The energy spent nursing cubs and walking endless distances has overwhelmed the little protein she manages to secure. The loss of 2 cubs was not random misfortune. In the unforgiving mathematics of nature, it was the predictable cost of raising cubs alone without the protection of a pride. The journey back to pride territory stretches nearly 15 kilometers. But the pace is controlled by cubs still too young to travel at adult speed. Every pause is a calculation to reduce the risk of an ambush. Under prolonged stress, cortisol floods Subira's body. Travel speed matters less than survival. Elsewhere on the savannah, 2 nomadic brothers, Msafri and his younger sibling, face a different crisis. 2 males are not enough to dominate territory. Without a stronger coalition, there will be no kingdom and no legacy. Then they encounter Sub-IRA. The lioness interests them. The cubs do not. Without their mother beside them, the cubs lose their ultimate shield. By the time Sub-IRA realizes what has happened, only 1 cub answers her desperate calls. Heartbroken and exhausted, she continues toward the pride with the lone survivor beside her. Then suddenly, another scent drifts through the air. Fresh blood. The male cheetah coalition has just brought down a young wildebeest, a feat impossible for a solitary cheetah. Together, the 5 brothers represent nearly 300 kilograms of speed and muscle. Sub-IRA is starving. Stress hormones cloud judgment. Normally, a lone lioness would never challenge 5 adult male cheetahs over a kill. But desperation destroys caution. She charges. For the first time in the coalition's history, the brothers refuse to retreat. A violent clash erupts across the grassland. In her prime, Sub-IRA would have realized instantly that the risk was too high. But hunger has stripped away her clarity. Then, from the south, Kaylee appears. The roar of a pride female in distress is enough to summon him without hesitation. The sight of his black mane crossing the horizon changes everything. The cheetah coalition abandons the carcass immediately. This is the true strength of a pride. A structure powerful enough to support members when they can no longer stand alone. And it is exactly what Akil lacks. Days later, a young lioness expanding her patrol enters the northeastern buffer zone alone. A perfect testing ground for a rising hunter. Then she catches the scent of cheetah. But Akil has already sensed the danger. She cannot win a direct confrontation. So she chooses something unexpected. Distraction. A keel attacks the lioness's flank, not to injure, but to interrupt momentum. For half a second, the lioness freezes in shock. That hesitation is enough. Lion cubs in a pride have 1 to 2 years to learn from multiple adult hunters before they must survive on their own. Hidden across the grassland, for sharp chirps echo one after another. All 4 cubs are alive. Chapter 5. What comes next is theirs. 6 months changes everything. Akil's cubs now carry the shape of future champions. Long legs, spotted coats, bodies built for speed. But the greatest transformation is invisible. Skill. Instinct refined through repetition. Tiny improvements increasing survival odds by fractions each day. And over the next year, those fractions will decide life or death. For the 3 male cubs, survival depends on brotherhood. A coalition is not formed from affection. It is formed from evolutionary advantage. 3 males hunt more effectively than 1. 3 sets of eyes detect prey faster. 3 attack angles block escape routes. 3 bodies can overpower larger prey before lions or hyenas arrive. 3 is the optimal number. But the lone female cub faces a completely different destiny. Solitude. Not because she is rejected, but because millions of years of evolution have programmed female cheetahs for independence. She will not inherit a fixed territory. Instead, she will follow migrating herds across the open plains. One day, she too will stand atop a hill, watching a distant coalition on the horizon. Repeating her mother's life without ever reading a single page of instruction. Everything passed down through observation. Through mistakes. Through survival. The 18 months beside their mother act as a protected window where failure costs only a lesson, not a life. But beyond that safety lies a harsher reality. Today, fewer than 7,000 cheetahs remain on Earth. And most survive outside protected national parks. Instinct does not understand borders. Cheetahs only follow prey. But humanity has fragmented the ancient pathways they once used freely. A genetic bottleneck thousands of years ago left modern cheetahs with dangerously low genetic diversity. Their immune systems are so similar that a single outbreak can devastate entire populations. In 1994, disease swept through the Serengeti and killed nearly 30% of the region's cheetahs in one season. Cheetahs survive today not because nature favors them, but because of precision. Precision in every chase. Every decision. Every moment they choose whether to fight or retreat. 7,000 remain. And the number continues to fall. What they need most are connected green corridors between ecosystems. When migration routes are blocked by fences and agriculture, cheetahs become trapped. Unable to follow wild prey, they turn toward livestock. And retaliation follows. This cycle has already been documented across Namibia, Iran, and East Africa. As dusk settles over the northern Mara, the 5-brother cheetah coalition appears once more on the horizon, returning to the exact place where the story began. Moments later, the lions arrive as well. The kings step silently across the battlefield of a conflict they never witnessed. Completely unaware of the miracle of survival Akil has achieved. Only 7,000 remain. But tonight, beneath the swaying grass of the Masai Mara, the world still holds 4 new sparks of hope. Chapter 6. Cheetah, Lord of Speed. More than 5,000 years ago, in ancient Egypt, cheetahs symbolized power and divinity. Unlike most animals revered by Egyptian civilization, cheetahs were never fully domesticated. Pharaohs kept them because controlling the fastest land animal represented a unique form of authority. The goddess Mafdet, protector of justice and law, was often depicted with the image of a cheetah. Its speed and precision reflected justice delivered swiftly and flawlessly. Centuries later, in the Mughal Empire of India, Emperor Akbar reportedly maintained over 1,000 trained cheetahs for royal hunts. Not only because they were effective hunters, but because possessing cheetahs was a statement of political and cultural power. What matters most about humanity's relationship with cheetahs is not how long it lasted, but how it ended. The population collapsed. Once, cheetahs ranged from Africa through the Middle East and deep into India. Today, Their habitat covers less than 10% of that historical range. Humans once kept more than 1,000 cheetahs in a single royal palace. Now the entire wild population is only around 7,000 individuals. And that decline reflects the destruction of the landscapes cheetahs require to survive. Cheetahs do not need the largest territories or the most food among African predators. They need something far more specific: open grasslands.